Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Thanks, Pad. Welcome back to the final hour of Tipp Today. 1800 938 007 is our free phone number. If you want to talk to Leanne, you can text and WhatsApp 083 311 3311. We agree with Councillor Liam Brown. It says the new unit should be in Our Lady's Hospital in Cashel. It makes no sense, as he pointed out. Less of the talking and get on with the installation. All right, time for this.
Legal discussion on Tipp Today is brought to you in association with Lynch Solicitors Clonmel, on the web at lynchsolicitors.ie and at divorceinireland.com.
Gillian O'Mahony from Lynch Solicitors with me in studio. Good morning to you, Gillian, and good to see you today. A recent High Court decision you're going to talk to us about in a family law case.
Correct.
Unusual one?
Well, it was a decision that was published and it appeared in a lot of the national media over the last week or two. So it's a High Court decision of Judge Nuala Jackson. So we are a common law country, so our law doesn't totally derive from legislation, statute. Cases provide precedents, and it is a precedent then which is followed by all other courts, lower courts, and the precedent then can only be changed by a court of equal standing, the High Court or a Supreme Court. So this was an interesting case. It was a High Court family law case. So to go into the High Court for a family law case, first of all, the assets have to be over 3 million. If the assets are under 3 million, it's a circuit court case, and we in Clonmel have a local circuit court family law court, so it's much more local. The High Court Family Law Court sits in Dublin, and there are generally 2 judges who hear these types of cases. So in this case, the assets were worth nearly 7 million. It was a long marriage. It was a 20-year marriage, I think, from a 20-year marriage to include some of the relationship. There were 3 children who are now teenagers. In this case, the wife gave up her job early to stay at home to look after the children. The husband worked in a family business. It was originally a family business. It was an agri type business company. And that was, I suppose, what we call the golden goose. It funded the family. Yes. It provided the income. The wife was looking for 50% of the assets here. Her argument was that, okay, the origins, the provenance was from his family, but the business developed during the course of the marriage, and it came to success during the course of the marriage by virtue of her contribution, by virtue of her staying at home looking after the children, and as a result the husband went out to work and developed this business. Right,
so it was her support. So really, if she was to get what she was looking for, the business would have to be sold then, was that it, Jill?
Presumably, yes, or she would... or you'd need an investor or whatever. Yeah. So in this case, the family home was worth in or around 1.5 million. The business was the business itself was worth about 2.5, and I think it was sitting on land. There was a dispute in the case as to the value of the land. It was valued as agricultural land, but the wife was arguing it could also be valued as development land because of zoning, and they could relocate, and she was looking for that to be taken into account. In this case, she was looking for an equal asset split, but the law says that the court only has to provide proper provision. So our legislation says proper provision. It doesn't say equal distribution. It doesn't say 50-50. It's proper provision. What does proper provision mean? It's different in every case. But generally, I suppose the first thing you look at, the first headline, and one of the factors to be taken into account is accommodation. Where are both parties going to live? In this case, ultimately, the court decided, Judge Nuala Jackson said that equal asset split was unsuitable in this case because the livelihood was at stake. So that was one of the factors for refusing equal asset split. The second factor was the provenance of the assets. So the main asset, the primary asset, was this agri-business company and the lands on which it had its business, and the court found that had been generated, or the origins of it had been from the husband's family. The court said that assets that come from outside of the family, such as inheritance, gifts, pre-marriage or post-separate assets, are to be of a different character. So the court can only really take them into account if it has to take them into account, or a court might give you a bigger slice of the family home and not touch the business, such as in this case, the wife got the full family home, which was worth 1.5 million. It was the court ordered that it be sold, so she got the full family home rather than 50-50. So ultimately the wife got she had a 15% shareholding in the company. She got the family home. She also had another asset pre-marriage, but it worked out that I think she got between 30 and 40% of the assets, and the husband had kept in excess of 60%. The court also refused spousal maintenance. It gave spousal maintenance for a very short period of time, I think for a couple of months or until the summer, until the family home gets sold, and then effectively said that she was employable and she can go and get a job.
Wow.
And that the children were such of an age that it wouldn't prevent her from working.
Is that not very unusual? Because she hadn't been working. She had stayed at home to support, obviously, allow him to go about his business and this kind of thing. And would they look at her qualifications, for example, before they'd make a decision?
She had been in a pensionable job. The case, when you read the judgment's actually available online for anybody who wants to read it on the courts.ie website. All judgments are published. All written judgments are up there. You search under the judge's name, Judge Jackson. The case is in initials because family law cases are private, so it's anonymous. Even where the lands are, where the business, you wouldn't know where this case was from reading it. Okay. Is it unusual? I think there's more and more. There's the job market at the moment. There's prospects out there, and the court felt she was in her 50s. She did have interests. She had interests in the equine industry, so she was employable. She wouldn't generate the same income as the husband was going to generate, but she also had a house with a rental that could be rented, and she would have a rental income out of that.
Now, I know the children were grown up, but was there any question of the children in the judgment?
No, because actually at the start of the judgment, the court commended both parties for reaching a solution on the children. So the court wasn't
through mediation, was it?
Yes, I presume so. They had reached an agreement on how they were going to parent the children, so that wasn't a factor for the court to determine.
Okay. Now, a lot of people talking about this. So this is a departure of some kind, and as you say, precedent.
It's a precedent, but I suppose there are other precedents. It's not a huge departure because we do have Supreme Court decisions saying that inherited assets don't necessarily form part of the pool of assets, the pool of marital assets for a division. And again, it comes down to that's probably more relevant in ample resources cases. So
what does that mean?
That's a legal term for cases where there is a huge amount of wealth, perhaps.
Yes.
If it was a case where you had your sole asset was perhaps a house worth 250,000, 300,000 in Clonmel, and you may have had input from family, well, that's different. That's not an ample resources case, and the court in that case would have to look at how are the parties going to accommodate themselves. But in an ample resources cases where there are more than enough resources and more than enough assets to properly provide for parties without having to go near the non-marital asset, well, the court will do that. It's probably of huge relevance for the farming community.
Yeah, and tell me about that, because of succession in some way, isn't it?
Well, I suppose the farming, there was huge concern when divorce came in originally amongst the farming community. I remember reading, somebody goes up the aisle with a bunch of flowers and they come down the aisle with half a farm. There was huge angst, huge fear, and there is still huge angst, huge fear. We see it on a daily basis. I thought
there was some changes around that, though. Was there?
No, not necessarily. No, there is, we would still meet farmers, and I know my colleague was speaking to you about farms there recently, Rosemary. Every time we meet a farmer, they're concerned about passing the farm on and how can they protect that in the event of their son or daughter's marriage falling into difficulty, and how can that asset be protected. So I suppose this judgment does help that, does assist those farmers who may be looking at transferring farms, in that if the farm is what's generating the income, and the farm is not a marital asset.
Interesting. Would a prenup not sort that in some way?
A prenup, they haven't, while they're not prohibited, There's no guarantee that a court will take them into effect. We do them because obviously you only have one opportunity to do them, and anybody who's considering one should do it because it has to be done pre-marriage. It has to be done more than 3 months pre-marriage. But again, circumstances change, so you may do a prenup, but you would have to take into account the fact what happens if there are children, what happens if it's a long marriage. You know, a prenup may only have relevance for a short marriage where there are perhaps no children. It would have less relevance, let's say, if you had a 25 year marriage with children. So, but there is only one opportunity to do them. So I certainly do urge people, but they come with a health warning. There is no guarantee that it will be regarded by the court.
I think from my conversations with John over the years, Gillian, I understand that the circumstances around a divorce in this country is not taken into account. In other words, culpability or blame or whatever.
Absolutely. We've a no-fault divorce system, and actually that came out in this judgment
such a proper way to put it. I went all around the house to explain it, but yes.
I was wondering where you were going. And that actually comes out in this particular case as well. We've a no-fault divorce system. We do have a provision where conduct can be taken into account if it's gross and obvious.
So like domestic violence and the
yes,
like,
it has to meet a very high threshold. So in this case, for example, there was an extramarital affair. That does not constitute gross and obvious behaviour. Addiction generally doesn't either. Generally what I find, or generally what I would advise people, it needs to probably meet a criminal standard for it to, but I suppose that's not the law, but generally I find for a court to take behaviour into account, it has to meet a criminal standard.
It's very interesting indeed. So, and again, because this was a lot of money, this went to the High Court. But again, the precedence of this could apply locally.
Well, yes, absolutely. Yes. So our lower courts, so our circuit court case, they're bound to follow the higher courts. So they're bound to follow the High Court in the judgments it sets down.
Yeah, well, as I always say to John Lynch, I'm fascinated by your work. I really am. I think it's a fascinating job. Are you aware that it's a very interesting job?
Well, I suppose it is very interesting, especially in general practice. Yeah. So I would be a general practice. So you would be dealing with matters that arise on a local basis, family law, medical negligence, personal injuries. I would have friends and colleagues who would be perhaps in Dublin in the bigger firms. They're entirely different jobs. Yeah.
It's fascinating altogether. Gillian, thanks for coming into us today. Thanks very much.
Thank
indeed.
you, Fran.
Gillian O'Mahony there from Lynch Solicitors in Clonmel. 11:17. Back in just a moment.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. Now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the Expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Worrying. It's just so Irish. A non-exhaustive list of worries. Being too friendly, too agreeable, too nice. We even apologise for apologising. It's a lot. That's why you may be interested in driving something less worrisome, like a new Renault with a 5-year warranty, full of style and innovation that makes you say, ooh la la. From 0% APR or a trade-in bonus of up to €2,500. Rethink Renault. Finance is made under a hire purchase MFS. T's and C's applies, subject to lending criteria. Deposit required. Offers are limited. See Renault.ie.
Take a test drive at Cleary Motors Thurles. Call 0504 21281 or visit clearymotors.ie.
Looking for a career that truly makes a difference? Avista Disability Services is hosting a recruitment open day on Wednesday, March 4th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Maltings building in Rosscray. We're recruiting care staff, social care workers and registered nurses to support people with disabilities across your community in North Tipperary and Offaly. Enjoy same-day screening and interviews with a values-led supportive employer. Just bring your CV, driving licence, ID and relevant qualifications. Drop in, meet the team and take the next step in a meaningful career. That's Avista Recruitment Day, March 4th, Rosscray. Find us at avista.ie or on social media.
If your dog chases after sheep, it's not your dog's fault. If your dog attacks a flock, savaging sheep and lambs, it's not your dog's fault. So wherever you bring them, keep them under control at all times. Because whatever they do, it's not your dog's fault. It's yours.
Your dog is your responsibility. Visit gov.ie/dogs to find out more. A message from the Government of Ireland.
Short flight, big possibilities. Fly Shannon to Frankfurt non-stop with Discover Airlines and connect onward with ease. Twice weekly flights from Shannon to Frankfurt with Discover Airlines. Starting Saturdays from April 25th and Thursdays from July 2nd. Go Discover at www.discover-airlines.com. Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.